I was a little bit taken aback when you were like, well, we'll talk to our designer to see what lines up. I'm like, no.
Yeah,
Like
no,
that,
I could
right?
sense that, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, and my hope is that, like, because you're saying you accept the risk of those big swinging meta changes, right? You're saying you're willing to accept those risks. Is everybody willing to accept those risks? Is everybody, like, I know the Gulag was a collective of people that came up with these number changes, but it's still a small sample size of our user base.
Hey, what's going, guys? Phil here with podcast 220. It's been a while since we've had a podcast, and why not dive into some fun stuff? With me, none other is Matt Newman. He is the live ops manager at Piranha Games. We have you. Normally we have Darren, and I've chose you. Actually, you guys. Yeah. What's going on? How are you, man?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'll get to talk a lot more when it's just me and you than if
He's
Darren's here, right?
he
Because you guys have
is
such a rapport that it's hard to get a word in
he's a
edgewise.
diva. He likes to talk. Or am I?
Well, I
Am
think
I
you
talking
guys
to
just
myself? Yeah, I don't know.
I think you guys have just been going at it for so long that you have a flow that it's hard to get in between there.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
being the third wheel. But
Oh man, I'm sorry.
oh, it's all right.
Yeah, that's going. All right. Well, anyways, man,
It's
like,
a pleasure to be a part of.
yeah, thank you for like taking the time, and of course, for everybody out there, you guys have been putting out some content as far as what's coming on with MWO, and I wanted to sit down, and you're giving me this opportunity to like sort of go back and forth. You guys dropped the devlog video that covered the roadmap, and I went through the roadmap and did my own roadmap review.
I watched it.
Yes, I know. You guys said as much on the video. I was like, like I feel like my name. How many times was my name dropped? I feel like that should be
Too many.
name. Too many. Yeah. So there was a few other content creator. TTB also did a review video. I think it was about 40 minutes as well. And
I have not watched his yet. I do apologize. I do intend to watch it though. So
yeah, and I mean, it's like a lot of streamers have talked about it. I know when it was coming out, a lot of people were watching it live on their streams, and of course checking it out. So let me just ask how are you? I mean, obviously this is sort of a new initiative within the last few months. How are you feeling about things so far?
Great. I'm really happy. Having a lot of fun. I'm working a lot. It's great working with Darren. And I get to every day we get up and we go over this thing, Goalscape, which is basically a goal-based software. He and I both have a version of it, and we can collaborate on it. And it's just a layer above, tasking software or documentation software that we use inside the studio. It just allows us to coordinate our efforts as to what's going to get done by who on that particular day. And anytime something comes up, we just immediately jump on there and add it in there. So it's our daily review. Like if you get up in the morning, you want to accomplish something, you look at your goals. What are the tasks I have to do to achieve those goals? And so that's how we coordinate. We talk like this every day. And then we also talk to the rest of the team. So we coordinate first thing. We set about our tasks. And then if he has to talk to somebody in production or I have to talk to somebody in live ops, and we do those different things, and we'll coordinate a couple times during the day. And yeah, it's been working from home almost a year now.
Yeah.
And I actually like it. It's pretty decent. The commute is really easy. Just walk down the stairs.
To wear pants or not wear pants?
I'm wearing pants. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, supposedly you're wearing pants. I'm just saying.
Yes.
That's awesome. And of course, I obviously talking to Darren, it's funny because he's made a few comments. He's like, I've worked more than I ever did. And it's so funny because now he's got to wake up at 8 in the morning and get on, you guys got your meetings and your schedule and stuff. And I think it gives me a little bit of satisfaction just, like he is. Yeah. It's like, finally.
My first question to them every morning is usually, have you had your coffee yet? Because it's we'll be I'm like, as soon as you have your coffee, let me know. We can start our meeting.
We can start because before that, yeah.
No, it's useless before that.
Yeah. Him and his huge. He brings out bowls of coffee. It's not even cups, but regardless, miss you, Darren. All right. So you've been doing this for a while. You're obviously excited, and I think one thing. You've had a good relationship with the community. I think that's fair to say. Like a lot of people like you. I think you've sort of
We'll
I don't
see
know
if it
how.
lasts a year.
No, I don't know. Like you've never been the villain, I guess, which is
I've
nice.
been the
I
villain a
guess.
couple times. I've
Ah, I don't
so
know. I don't
okay.
know.
One time I tweeted, you guys should get the Warhammer 2C before MechCon, or you'll regret it, kind of thing. And then it kind of blew up in the forums, right? Because people are like, "What is he talking about?" And I was talking about the reward mech that was going to come out on the holiday special thing. But I've created this huge fear of missing out on something without letting them know what it is they'd be missing out
All
on.
right.
And so that was a fuck up.
I guess what I'm saying is like you've always been in the good, like
I try to be. I try
there's
to be.
no
I
one's
try to
really been
listen to the
negative of you,
community.
and I think that's awesome. And I think that it goes back to, again, you're not like a controversial person. Obviously, you're
I'm not making weapon balance changes
right.
though.
Yeah,
I'm
like
not
you're doing
designing
events. Yeah,
systems. Yeah,
yeah. You're doing events, and which, by the way, I'm sure we'll get to the event. I like the current one; it's really cool. We'll talk about that later.
yeah, I'm really stoked on it too.
Okay, so let's talk about the roadmap. You guys have a tentatively, I think you said February 16th patch. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was only
That's coming up?
tentative simply because of them testing,
Okay.
and it's in test right now, and I haven't seen any bugs come back yet. So
Okay. So let's go and talk about that. I mean, um, the roadmap's long, so I don't know if we'll go over every single subject because some of them are repetitive, and that's one of the things I sort of, it's like you're the trial mechs. You get new ones every single month. You're going to be basically, and every quarter you're going to be reviewing them, which I think is
doing the
great.
green blinky thing.
Yeah,
What the
don't
hell's
worry
wrong
about
with
it.
my
I don't
computer?
know.
I'm not going to worry about it, but it's just bugging
Yeah,
me.
it's all right. So
Yeah,
those
so I
those
guess the
type of
trial
things,
mechs
yeah,
though, like people have been asking us to update those builds forever,
yeah,
right? And it's like, so we're telling you every quarter we're going to make sure that we rotate new trial mechs in, and we're going to get new builds put in them based on community feedback. Like, and by the end of the year, I want to have it so whatever we do to the skill system, we can have those mechs skill too, because I don't think it makes like much sense for a player to come into a new free-to-play game and be so far down on the totem pole that they're just kicked in the face constantly, right? Because that's not fun. And a lot of what we're doing in the beginning of the year is in the hopes that the new player experience can become something that is much more welcoming, much more fun. Like the changes we made in December to just start them at tier 4.5, you guys have been asking for forever. Give them more content, free mechs every month. Like, it's just, if you're a new player, if you've been in the game forever, I just the other day I was watching the Gulag video again, and it's like those guys are like, I have billions of C pills, like just they have all the stuff that they need, and they don't worry about it. Their biggest concern is, where did I leave that engine, like, or
yeah.
what mech is that engine in, and I
Where's my
want to
hula
transfer it
girl
over to
at?
this one. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So
yeah,
there's so much content in the game, and I love the fact that they're still playing. That's huge. And I want everybody who stop playing for whatever reason to come back and check out what we're doing too.
sure.
But at the same time, our goal is to also expand into new markets by doing localization. So, I don't know the exact languages, but full Russian, full German. Like, there's how many people don't play just simply because they're not comfortable enough with English. So I think it's a big opportunity to grow the audience, and growing the audience allows us to be more successful and do more things with the game. So it's a big year, and I know we've said it like a while ago, and there's the doubters out there. They're like, what we're going to accomplish. I'm excited about what we're going to accomplish. It's a big challenge. There's a lot to do, a lot of work, and we're starting slow, but the ambitions are high. So yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of new players, I think that's just sort of where it starts anyways. The roadmap is talking about the NPE experience. There's a few things. I think one of the big things for me is if a new player comes in here, what they need is an environment where they can be successful and learn, right? I mean, that's the same thing we teach when, we're teaching and you're coaching new students or something like that. They need an environment where they're taught like the basics, whether it's in this case, like this is a sport, like instructions like how to drive, what firing is, all that fun stuff. But also too is the environment where
I call it the shallow end.
sure, Yeah, shallow
Yeah.
end, sure, right? You need to
Yeah.
walk before you run, and you need to crawl before, yeah, all that stuff. Yeah. So
You want to throw them right in the deep end first, and that's the game kind of does that.
because also with that, it's not like you have a transfer of knowledge like from other games. It's not like you go from like you have a pretty good transfer going from like Tarkov to like Call of Duty or Call of Duty to Tarkov. Like there are FPS like you don't have as much here. Like even if you did play World of Tanks, like you understand that there's a relationship between your hull and your turret, but unless you're playing the urban mech specifically, there isn't. You know what I'm saying? Like so,
Yeah.
I think for that, it's such a cliffhanger too because they're spending their C bills and they don't know what they're doing. They're spending their XP and they don't know what they're doing. The skill tree, of course, I'm sure we'll get to that. I think Darren and you guys mentioned new player videos, and of course, one of those things that I'm going to be working with you guys on and creating some videos and starting, getting those out for March, and I'm looking forward to that. But like diving into it is such a complex thing, and on top of that, you can't be specific. You can't go into like weapon values. You can talk about like a weapon system, like hey, a laser has a duration, and during that duration, right, it's spreading the damage out and stuff. But you can't go into like, well, it does 5 damage here, does X heat, because you guys are going to do a weapon pass and then it's pointless.
Yeah.
That's old news, right? So like you have to stick to like the fundamentals that won't change. So that's something that we're going to be working on. But outside of that, I wanted to ask like, obviously for Q1, you guys have cadet, which is already done, increased cadet bonus. You guys weren't saying it's not you're increasing the rewards per se, like the C bill amount, right?
C bill stays the same, but we're giving them a lot of extra stuff. So they're getting some MC, they're getting colors, they're getting, so basically, you know how the basic colors were green and then there's like red, blue, and it's like you just get them now. You can start customizing mechs, and the idea behind that is it's just giving them content that they can start to like experiment with and understand like, oh, it's fun to like put different colors on my mech. Sure. Gives them ownership, right, and a reason to stick around and do a few things, even if it is paint. I think there's cockpit items, there's MC, there's GSP, because they're going in there, and if they've made it through 25 matches, and initially it used to be like tier 3 they would be dropping in, and they may not have had the best experience, but they've stuck through it, and I want them to be rewarded. And also with the free mech every month, not only would they be rewarded every month, but there'd be something for all players to grab as well. So
yeah, and that's something you guys just started, that it's available to everyone. So now that I know, you guys mentioned that in the vlog, but I didn't know exactly. You were like, and so now that's out, and you guys are doing, or you call them missions. It's like a monthly mission.
So it's not fully missions yet. Okay. The idea behind missions is that they would be distributed probably across 4 missions. There'd be a page you'd go to, and you would kind of see like there's still challenge-based stuff from our event system. It's like weekend 1 is, or week 1 is this, week 2 is this, week 3 is this, week 4 is this. This one that we did is like all month. You can log in at any point during the month and get it. If you log in kind of late in the month, you might have a bit of a challenge to get there. But there'd be a new mech available starting the next month. So the idea is that, because we talked about how do we give them players a choice of a mech when they complete 25 matches, so that they just straight up get a mech right away. And it became a question of like, what do we give them? Do we give them choice? And that became also a system that we would have to add in the game. And we already have so many systems that I think that we can do a better job of just using what we have and just being more, providing it in a way that's like, oh, okay, cool. Like it also goes to things where people are like, you guys should send out more emails. And actually that's something I was supposed to do today, was send out a big marketing email of like the Razor Hunts the Huntsman event that we're doing right now, where Razor let us know like, hey, we've got these new keyboards coming out that we think they'd be really interesting for Mechwarrior players because they can function as joystick controls and stuff like that. And so they sent us a couple. I've got one right in front of me, and the other one I'm like, who I'm going to give this to is Nutty Rat, because he lives like 5 blocks away from me. He's a huge Razor nut, and he's a perfect guy to stream this and test it out. And So it just kind of all happened in the last week to make it happen. And the free mechs, we weren't even going to start till next month, but it was like the keyboard's called the Huntsman, and it's really cool, and you guys should check it out. And then
that's the keyboard's name too, so that's
the mech and the keyboard, it just aligned perfectly, right? So it was like, there's no way I'm not doing this. We knew they were announcing it on the 4th on their Razer Live store thing, so just everything kind of aligned, and that's really the feeling that we're getting this year. There's so many things that are aligning for us. I was in a meeting today with Vinny, who is like in charge of staffing, and we're talking about people and when they roll off of MW5, right? Because there's a lot of people working really hard on MW5 right now to get it to ship it on consoles and to get all the platforms aligned and functioning properly. So we had a game that we were going to ship in December 10th, and it was a DLC in a game, and it was going to be on 4 different storefronts, and it was going to be great. But now all of a sudden we're shipping it on console SKU as well, and you want those to play nice with each other, and you potentially want to put them on a disc. So all those people that were going to start rolling off after December or onto different projects or come over to MWO, all of a sudden their time has been kind of like hoovered up by this task of like, how do you get it working on the Xbox One S and X with this memory footprint, and how do we make it look good still, right? Because the requirements can be, to make it look as good as it can look, the requirements can be steep, so there's some optimizations going on there, and get it fit in memory, get it fit on disk. So yeah, a lot of those resources that we were anticipating having,
they're still held up.
They're still like, but artists are usually the first people to roll off, right? Level designers, you've got usually, as you're ramping into or finishing a product, you start locking people out of the build, right? You've got your bug count on the art side goes down, like, and then it's like there's one person who can check things in, and it's like once a week, and it's only on critical bugs. It's not on like the low hanging or the low value bugs. And then slowly over time, engineers stop touching different systems because you've got to get a disk ready to go to manufacturing as well. And so those resources coming off the project, I'm bidding on for MWO to get this work done.
Gotcha. Okay. And obviously we can go down this road, but going back to the sort of new player experience, I did have a question as far as like, since the change of cadets going to tier 5, you guys track, I would assume you track analytics as far as player retention. Has it been long enough to notice any change in that? Or has it been no change at all? Or like, again, the strategy of what you guys are talking about on the roadmap is to keep that retention and those people playing longer and more, right? I mean, that's the whole goal, right? Have you noticed any difference since you guys implemented just that?
So I don't have any retention reports to share with you right now. To be honest, like, we've been wholly focused on getting these changes in and working on the planning of MWO. That is part of our roadmap, is better analytics, more accessible analytics in real time. And so we've got a task that is on our web development side in order to have those things just at our fingertips, not something where it's like, okay, I want to generate this report, and then you get it in a weird form, and then you've got to like go through the XML. It's like daily analytics of, sales numbers, player engagement, matchmaking times, all those kind of things. And we've kind of operated at a level where we had that data, but you'd have to go to multiple sources and pull it. So you'd have your player counts over here, you'd have your sales data over here, you'd talk to the database guy to be like, how many people have logged in, how many new accounts are created, how many of them logged in, downloaded the game, how many of them played 1 game, 2 games, 3 games, 4 games. So, and then you kind of have to plot it out. But Darren and I are at the point now where we don't want to have to continually ask the same things. We want to have like charts that we can reference.
Yeah.
So we do have a task in the works for the web development side to have that data, just a dashboard ready for us as well.
Yeah.
So we do have multiple dashboards. There are multiple ways to get that information, but we're at the point now where we're not paying attention to that. We're head down working, and we're getting someone to set up a dashboard properly for us.
Because I figure you just basically, I mean, and this is with anything that you do, you'd want to like check quarterly, like, is there an actual difference? Like, do you see any, like, a new player comes in and he's not quitting after 3 matches? Maybe he's, like he stays longer, or they're quitting after 10 matches, 20. That's still an improvement of whatever. Because you are going to have people that play the game and it's just not for them and they're going to move on. That does happen, but you want to reduce that number, obviously. So,
Yep.
A big resource, obviously I'm biased towards this, so I'll say this, but I said this in the video, is I feel like streamers play a big part where a new player can come to those streamers. Because really, outside of like tutorial videos, like you guys have a tutorial in the game, it'll show them the basics, right? And you can then show them some videos and it can dive into a little bit more complicated, if you will, systems and nuances about the game. But really outside of that, unless they have a friend playing, the only other way is to watch someone and be able to answer. So like if you are listening to this and you are new, head over to streamers. It doesn't have to be my channel. It can literally be any other. And for the most part, if they don't know, there's usually someone in their chat that can give you an answer and or find an answer too. And that sort of brings me up to finding answers. You guys mentioned the wiki. I mentioned this in video. Can we talk about that? Like, is that something that it's pretty low, far down on the roadmap, but like sort of like the trial mechs? Have you guys talked about like just asking some community members just to like hey, who wants to take the reins?
That's the plan. Literally, that's the plan. It was started as a community initiative as well. We had always kind of struggled on the website with keeping up with those changes, getting that information up onto the official kind of information there. So yeah, wiki makes the most sense, and getting those people on there is the best way to do it. And it's just one of those things where it could happen sooner.
Okay.
Darren is in the middle of making the Discord to be both MW5 and MWO. I don't know if you noticed, but the icon changed. It's not a great icon change. But I mean, these are things that we are working on. And a lot of times sometimes I'll put it like in January, we made the patch for February, right? In February, we're making the patch for March. And when it comes to like planning for Q2, Q3, Q4, when I talk about new mechs releasing in Q3, that means that we start talking about those mechs now, right? That's why we're gathering intel from the players of like what you guys want, so that we can go, okay, well, what do we think the game needs? Let me make sure I can get the resources. Concept art has to be made. The website needs to be put together for pre-order. Changing, what plans do we have to change the way we pre-order? Does it need to be the traditional MWO, like standard hero, like all those things that we've done up till now? Because we've evolved, but we haven't changed it drastically. Like each pack kind of got a little bit better, but then we settled into like a cadence of like there's the standard collection, and then plus the hero or the ultimate collection with everything all inclusive in it and stuff. So I see it as we're looking at, finding new ways to monetize and maybe give the players more value in those packs and make them live on in a better way. We want to look at the store. We want to look at everything, like, especially if we're going into new regions, like it needs to be people who have been with the game for a long time can go to our store and understand what the heck's going on. But I feel like if you're a new player and you go to the store, you're like, how do you compare value of these collections? Yeah. How do you know what you're getting is what you want?
Well, even the latest bundles you guys did, that good value, and some of those are even better the value than what's like in the game for like MC2.
Yeah, and they're
like
buried though. They're buried. Try and find them.
You have to go to the website. You have to then go to the store. Then you have to click bundles. And some of those, I mean, I jokingly said about the Scourge, but like, it's true. Like that's better than the Cataphract pack, right? That you could, it's like, yeah, you get more mechs over there, but like, okay, so
I like the Cataphract.
yeah, it used to be the pinnacle.
I go by So when I say I like mechs, it's generally I like how they look.
They look, yeah.
Yeah. I like Cataphract's a cool looking mech. I think the Griffin's a cool looking mech. So
Bow and
that's
arrow used to be the pinnacle. It's not anymore. Like
yeah, exactly.
it's antiquated. No, it's so obviously we're talking about the new players, analytics. We're just going down the list here. Quality of life, lower the volume, and obviously that's a meme right now for the videos. I get it.
Is it a meme?
Yeah, I mean, because people, yeah, just yeah, it is what
I don't
it
mind
is.
being a meme. That's fine. I don't mind
the time the time of day changes. It's funny because like I feel like a lot of this conversation is where like the time of day change wouldn't have been as big of an issue if it wasn't that little performance tick, but also like visibility, being able to see far. But it's like, okay, well, hey Matt, can you guys change thermals to view farther or night vision? And I'm assuming the response is potentially, but I have to go ask that guy, and that guy right now is tied with Mech 5, right? Like I'm assuming that's sort of like
yeah, but I'm asking them. I'm still asking them. Like, I'm trying to be as like non-disruptive as possible, but I'm trying to accomplish as many things as possible as well. And like, there's, as you saw from the list, it's massive, but there's still things that aren't on that list, right? Too. So, I don't want to say we can do everything, but we're not saying no to anything yet, and anything that we do have to say no to, we want to have a discussion about it. Why? And maybe we come up with a solution that isn't this or that. Like, you like predator vision. You wish you hadn't have said that to get rid of predator vision. I liked it.
I wish I could slap myself. Like seriously, like it's one of those
but
where
it's not like you got rid of it, right? Like at the time when these decisions were made,
I was a voice, and I shouldn't have been like. I should have been like, how about what do other people think? Like it looks cool, right? And like there's something to be said about that. It was definitely.
It's hard though too, because like you can find an equal and opposite number of people that are scared of the roadmap, that are excited about it. Like when we talk about weapon value changes past one, you can be excited and go like, yeah, they're going to change the weapons, and then you can also be like, oh no, they're going to change the weapons.
Change weapons. Like, well, some people you're not changing. You're not changing the weapons.
I'm not. I have nothing to do with the value changes.
Can we? Okay,
but
so
I'm saying yes, we're going to listen to your feedback, and we're going to make changes to the weapon values. And I think the Gulag had a pretty good, like you said, like a pretty good recommendations. Are they perfect? I don't know. Like, I'm not a weapon balance guy. Either. I'm literally not. Like, I look at things like events, and I'm like, I want it to be fun.
Sure.
I want the events to be fun, and I've made events that aren't fun, and they've let me know, and then I try and change them. Like, oh, stop using tag because it sucks, right? Okay, so I've stopped using it. Every once in a while, I'll throw it in there, just like get one tag thing, because it just makes sense in the challenge. But
so
even this newest one, they're like, oh, people are worried about trying to get 30 UAV detections. People will YOLO. They'll like get in a light mech, run to the front line, launch a UAV, and just get decimated, right? It's like,
what's funny is like I'm on the I love the current ones. I consider them easy. They're low hanging fruit. But I'm also I guess a masochist where if you're like get 5,000 damage to the UAC 5s, I'm going to go out and do that because like I like even going down that rabbit hole sometimes. But then you'll hear just feedback of like, no, you should make it general. It's like it's supposed to be easy. But then I'm like, but I like, oh, the headshot challenge. Yeah, but normal Joe Schmo isn't getting a headshot. So like I see both sides, and obviously I know that's difficult, but I like it when it comes to weapon. I think the fear is what they're judging it is on past experiences. And I think this is a good time if we can just go ahead and talk about this, which is you guys have a job, you're moving forward. What's been done in the past is done in the past. You can't do anything. Darren can't do anything about it. So all we have to do is judge you for what you're doing right now, and treat your word as gospel. And if you break that, then you break that, and we can judge you then. And that's how I'm looking at it, because that's not fair. I can't judge you guys for whatever. And of course, so when it comes to the weapons, you guys mentioned in the vlog video, and you sort of, and I know we mentioned this a few days ago when you hopped in channel, which was my only concern in that the XML change for weapons. You mentioned the Gula, you mentioned the community coming together, great. And then you're like, well, I'll have to ask the designers. And that was a red flag for me, not because I hate anybody over there, but for me, it's how I view this initiative by you guys, and correct me, is that you're leaning on the community to provide. We're going to do what the community does. How I look at it is PGI's role in this, not responsibility, role would be like, hey, we're going to do those changes to the small pulse, to the PPCs, to whatever, all the weapons. And whatever happens, but then our role, and this I'm speaking for you guys, would be to provide the analytics information afterwards, so then they can make educated decisions to make adjustments from month to month. That's how I view it. And so like, I was a little bit taken aback when you're like, well, we'll talk to our designer to see what lines up. I'm like, no.
Yeah,
like
no,
that,
I could sense that, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, and my hope is that, like, because you're saying you accept the risk of those big swinging meta changes, right? You're saying you're willing to accept those risks. Is everybody willing to accept those risks? Is everybody, like, I know the Gulag was a collective of people that came up with these number changes, but it's still a small sample size of our user base.
Sure.
And when it comes to like running things past designers, it's like, can these changes be made? Like, and it's not so much like, you know, they've got their opinion or whatever. That's fine. But I want to work with the designers, because I don't want to be the one making those changes. I want somebody to blame. No, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not qualified to be making these decisions.
Sure.
Right.
I'm
not qualified to even guess what the outcome will be of if we just followed it 100%. Like, I wouldn't even know where it was going to end up. But I think what we are saying is that we want to try making those changes as they're suggested, and we want to try taking some risks. And we want to then take those risks and then listen to you guys and say, do you like it? Do you not like it? And it's like, gathering feedback is not a perfect science, right?
Sure.
Darren has been listening for the last 2 months, and for every piece of opinion that says we should do this, you can find an opposite piece of opinion that says we should do that.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of different people that have a lot of different opinions. My goal is fun. Like, when I play video games, is to have fun. But my fun can't come at the expense of somebody else's fun. Sure. So I think that's why a lot of people get frustrated around balance, because it's like, nope, not everybody can have fun, right? All the times, like, there's a winner and there's a loser.
And what is the definition? Right? Yeah, what's the definition of fun too?
Yeah.
Like, some people like just win. That's fun, and some people are like, I'm just shooting freaking lasers, and, you know, like, I don't really, you know, like, whatever. You know,
it's how they de-stress, right? It's
right.
Not,
sure.
Some people are ultra competitive. Some people are like, they're just in it to de-stress and have fun. They're not worried about team play, not worried about when they're.
And then a whole bunch in the middle. Yeah, all different spectrums. And I get that. I think, well, like, for me, I understand where you're coming from, and I think maybe this is a potential way for the community and, of course, PGI to mend some of those bridges, which is obviously it's a no-brainer. But even from the balance side, like, I don't think anybody would be against, like, you know, like, from the Gulag would, if they had a relationship with that design person's maybe in their Discord and able to, like, you know, like, hey guys, just FYI, like, that change you made to that, I have my concerns and this is why. Do you guys see that point of view? And then you go back and forth. I just feel like that's where I hope the relationship goes. Like, that's I think in the long run, I feel like for me, when I heard that, I was just like hesitant, because I'm like, you know, the reason why you guys are doing this and the reason why you're asking the community is there's literally hundreds of them. You know, like, there's thousands of people, but, like, there's a lot of people that can give their input that are really smart. I'm not a numbers person, so I can't, like, sit down, but I'm hoping that's the end goal, is like, whoever that design person is over at PGI, that they have and they're allowed to, you know, like, that was one of the things, like, back when we did work for, or I did work for you guys, like, back when Quirks, I'm talking about a long time ago, it was like a hush. I couldn't, and it put shackles on me, because, like, I couldn't have those discussions
I think we're interested in being more open about those discussions. We're interested in being more transparent about them. And I know that we have a reputation for not being like that. And sometimes I get that, and sometimes I don't get it, because I feel like we've communicated a lot with the community and listened to the community, but I can totally understand why some people say that we haven't done enough of it. So I see both sides of that argument as well. I think that for Darren and I, our goal is to bring as many people back to MWO who have left, and to take the content that exists in the game and use it in the best way possible to make the game as fun as possible. So it means all modes, all mechs, and really revitalize the game and put it in new regions, and bring the population up as high as we possibly can.
Sure.
And create a way for new players to join the game and have tons of fun, and create a competitive environment where we're still supporting comp, and to really pay homage to this great IP, which is BattleTech and Mechwarrior. Like, it's so many people love this. Like, I've told my story before, but like, my first computer I bought was a Pentium 133. It came with a Matrox Mystique, and it had, it blew my mind because it had textures on the ground, and I was playing Mechwarrior 2. It came with Mechwarrior 2 included in the game. I played it so much that I lost my first serious girlfriend relationship over that game. So it's not, I'm no stranger to it. Like, I remember going over to my friend's house and seeing the Mad Cat poster where it shows the internals that you got from the inside of the box set, and like looking at it, and I tried playing it with them, but we were also playing rock and roll music in a punk rock band and stuff like that. So I didn't get a lot into the tabletop side of things, but I just always loved mechs. I started my career as an art person at Piranha Games, and so giant mechs. My kids are named Griffin and Phoenix. Like, we love this property. Like, I love this property, and I just had a call today with several key people on the Mechwarrior team who love this game, like Mark Nicholson and Nico. So there's tons of people who just want it. We've talked about what we want to do for this year to the team. Russ has really handed Darren and I the keys and given us a mission statement of like, take what you can and make it as good as you can for the players that exist, and bring as many players back as you can, and expand into new regions. So, it's really interesting position to be in, to have this after this long history of 9 years of development, and to have working with Darren, and who is seeing it from the things from the outside, and has really been existed like inside but outside, like, as right?
Yep.
And then coming into it and seeing how we function as a company, and in COVID times,
like, which is a lot
so
different.
It's a lot different, but like, it's still really, really cool, and there's still tons of potential in the game. We're talking about, for the levels, do we get a resource that's at the company, or do we hire a new resource to do the spawn point changes that we want to do in Q2? I'm like, well, I kind of planned the year in the sense that if it's a new guy, he can just start moving around spawn points. We can get feedback from the community of like, this map is the worst offender for spawn points. Please make them like this. And we go, hey, new guy, this is what the community wants. And he's like, okay. And then he's like, moves to spawn points, and we're like, they really want a new route on Crimson Strait. Like, when the patch comes out, you guys will see what I did with the lighting on Crimson Strait. We were just dicking around with it. We're like, we got to set it to a specific time, and we're moving it around, and there's a point where the lights go on the upper deck and the lower deck, and so the sky's kind of red, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is Crimson Strait, right? The sky's red, the sea is red, and you would eventually see that if the match went on long enough, but the match will start that time, it will end that time, so you won't have the time of day stutter changes and stuff like that. But maybe it stays like that. Maybe you guys go, well, we want the other Crimson Strait back. My hope is that we can find a way that we don't have to export multiple versions of the same map, so that you've got content just expanding at an exponential rate. But I want to make it so that you can play in those modes. Like, if you can, in private match or in an event queue system that I'd love to have, be able to be like, it's it's weekend. It's nighttime all weekend or whatever. It's nighttime.
Yeah.
Nighttime fight time is the name of the event.
Yeah.
And every map is set to nighttime, so you have to use night vision. You have to use heat vision and stuff like that. But it's not like permanent. Like the content's not fixed. It's not like I hate this because this map's always night. But it's the same content, but used in a new way, and gives you a fresh look at all these different maps. So I'm rambling a lot, but I'm super excited about these.
It's all right.
These things.
No.
A lot of
People
things
like
that
it.
we want to do that I think are possible, but there's also a lot of things to do. So it's like,
well,
and
look,
what I was saying earlier about how it's like in January we made the patch for February. The bigger the task is, the sooner you have to start it too.
Because Q&A,
starting designing the event system next month.
Well, I mean, even
with the community's help.
By the way, I think there's nothing. Passion is great, and it's great to see that, and that's also why a lot of people like you. Two, so let's talk about weapon changes in March, right? Super excited for. I think I'm in agreement with you. I think one of the best things you guys could do right now is mix shit up and mixing stuff up. Because, I mean, let's just say something's out of whack. You're only talking about for like 2 weeks, and then you can start to make changes behind the scenes, and then it makes the patch, by next month. But two, it's why I've been a huge proponent of potentially you guys doing a time jump, because the last big tech update we had as far as the game was a good addition. It opened up a lot of options to mechs, balance, and things go fluctuate here or there, but that's fine. And the community comes out of the woodwork and tries those, like, hey, what's new? So with you guys doing a weapon change, and it's across the board or whatever, changes are provided, I think that's good. That also brought me to one of the points on the review was like, why not do XML changes, agility across the board as well? And then as I was like thinking about this yesterday, one of the things that popped in my head was, but they still have to Q&A all that. And a lot of people don't realize that Q&A is like, they're not there to
QA. It's not Q&A.
Oh, QA is
question and answer. QA is quality assurance.
But like, it's, for instance, like if you change the laser from 1 to 1.1, that's their job to go check to make sure it says 1.1. And then that's it. They don't tell you like, well, this is how we feel about the balance of its stuff. And like, that's not their job. And so like, then I'm thinking, okay, well, you're potentially changing a lot of inputs for weapons. You've got hundreds of mechs out there. Agility is obviously, I think it should all, because like, I want to see you guys succeed. And I'm just thinking swing out of the park, like some of the big balance changes that the community has wanted, agility, weapons. We can talk about rescale and stuff, but just like those things, is that even a possibility to move that? Because agility wasn't really on the roadmap. It was agility / skill tree, which I think skill tree is a whole big conversation. But agility in itself wasn't on there, and obviously that was on the sort of pre stuff that you guys had talked about. It was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
So for sure, you talk about agility. Does it make sense to do agility before you do rescale? Does it make sense to do agility, before you've tackled the skill tree? I don't know. Like, we did have some thought process behind it.
It's like the chicken before the egg.
If you fix jump jets first, or do you? Yeah. I mean, because skill tree has a huge effect on agility. I mean, it does and it doesn't. When you first get a mech, you have to skill it up before it's fully functioning as it can in its peak shape, right? And you can go different directions with that based on the skill tree as it stands. I see fixing the skill tree as a big undertaking, like in terms of amount of time and effort that's going to go into having to readjust that, because it affects it's not just a front end interface that you see. All those items are in the database. All those transactions are tracked as if you were making a payment on Amazon. You know what I mean? Like it's all the things that you do in the game are tracked to that level of it's an item in the database. And when you do a transaction, you're spending money, you're spending your C-bills, and you're spending your XP.
Sure.
So those are all in a ledger. We can see all that stuff. So those systems were built up over a large amount of time to do those things. And the engineers that made them spent a lot of time making them. And I'm not saying it's like I'm not going to undo that work. I'm saying that, is there a way for us to take the system as it is, or do we have to rewrite it in order to accomplish what it is we want to accomplish, which is to make the skill tree into something new that the players want it to use? And I think that there's many different skill trees that we could point to and go like, oh, make it like that game, or make it like that game. That's all well and good, but to get to the point where we're making it like that game, do I have to rip out everything that's already there? That scares the shit out of me, but it's still something we're willing to consider doing.
Sure.
So those are the considerations that we put into it. And when it comes to agility and like scale, I can see super like that. We put that up front because it's an art task. We know that people want the scale to change. We know we did it volumetrically, but people want it based on role and fun and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I know that the scale mod for MW5 was a huge hit, and I like it. I think it looks great. Like it's really, really cool. We made decisions about this stuff based on what it was we thought that people would like, right? Or what we thought would be great for the game. We're willing, Darren and I are willing, and the people that are at the company are willing to make these changes and go like, okay, well maybe like what does Mechwarrior look like if the scales are like this?
Yeah. And
we'll put that work in. And I feel like scale's the first thing. I think weapon changes are the first thing. I feel like agility could be up there, but I worry about changing agility. Are we changing it based on like a mech fully skilled or not fully skilled? And what do we do to the skill tree if we've changed agility beforehand?
Sure.
There's so many things you can change.
There's multiple layers. Like even now that you, not to throw another curveball at you.
Throw it. Like I spend tons of time thinking about these curveballs. Because
the curveball here is when you do weapons, you're gonna find that there's mechs that are skewed because of quirks. And man, I can talk to you about quirks and how I feel about quirks. Again, for those that don't know, I originally did the quirks up until a certain point, and then Chris took over. But I did all the originals. So like I'm guilty of the IV4 being OP as shit. That's my fault. Not fault though. I did it, but my point being is like I did it before the time jump. So now you got a mech that never got its legs sort of taken back because it's been OP. My point being though, and this is my concern, is talking about weapons. On when we were talking about this yesterday, is if you don't dequirk mechs and then redefine why, like it's one of the things that I struggled with behind the scenes, and then also now because you guys are doing community effort. Like it would be great to sit down and have a rubric. Why does a mech get a quirk? What is a quirk? How does it get applied to a mech? And what quirks?
Not even just quirks. It's like you can go all the way back to, you start like what are the characteristics of a mech, right?
Yeah. But this all ties in
hard points.
Yep.
The position of what, like where those weapons sit on the mech. There's how the damage, the profile of the mech, right? Like how it's shaped.
Sure.
The weight of the mech, so the max speed, because you like
profile,
we set engine. Yep. The skill tree, the quirks.
If you make balance changes to weapons, like let's just say on the Gulag thing is PPCs.
Hit points or the hit.
Yeah.
Like they're not hit points. What do you call it? The
armor
right torso,
and structure.
So it's like, is this crotch part of the center torso, or is it get spread across the legs?
Hitboxes, right? Yeah.
Yeah, hitboxes. So honestly, like if you write out the list of the things that you can do to a mech to rebalance it, and then you multiply it by the total number of mechs, and then you multiply that by the total number of variants, and then you say to me, like, let's balance the game. Like my mind boggles. Like, so you have to start somewhere.
Yep.
And I guarantee you there'll be missteps. Like I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to do everything perfect, but we will continue to push forward with making it, like listening and trying to make those changes. Like even for this patch, I've got a contingency plan in place if everybody hates me. You just like roll that shit back and release it.
No one's gonna hate you. No one's gonna hate you.
You know what I mean? Like, so for the maps, I exported 6 maps, and then when I exported them, there was errors that popped up at the console, and I'm like, oh, that sucks. There's errors in the console. I have no idea what any of these mean. All I did was change time of day, and so there's many layers on those maps for different modes. You've got your like assault layer, you've got your invasion layer, you've got all these different layers, and so there's different errors for different reasons. And I'm just kind of like, well, we're going to throw it to QA, and QA is going to tell us whether it's broken or not.
Sure.
And if QA tests it, and we're all testing from home, and so they're using the resources at their disposal to the best of their ability. And we've talked to the build guy, and it's like, we're going to put them out there, and if, like, say one map breaks for one mode, okay, well, we can take it out of rotation for that mode or that map, because we have the ability to do that on the back end. And if the whole map breaks for every mode, you can take that map completely out of rotation. If all 6 maps break for all the modes that you can play them in, that's a condition where we're like, okay, roll back my changes, because you've got perforce, you've got a history of those files being changed over time. You roll back Matt's changes, you re-export the maps, you put them back in the game, all of a sudden time of day is back in the game, because that's the only thing I changed, but I may have broken the map somehow. I didn't know what state they were left in. I didn't know what state they should be in before I exported them. So we're making risky changes. We are making those risky changes, and we are going to be ready to with hot fixes. And I know that some people will be like, view that as negative, like we don't know what we're doing. We're shitty developers for releasing patches with bugs. It's like, yeah, that's one way of looking at it, or another way of looking at it is we're taking risks. We're trying to be as agile as fuck, and we're trying to get the game in a state that you guys wanted it, and as quickly as we can with the limited resources we have. So I hope that you can players can choose to look at it that way and accept the risk. I'm certainly doing it that way. Like I'm certainly looking at it as like, I've got a year to and I'm not saying I have a limit of a year. I'm giving myself a year to grow the game as much as possible and make broad sweeping change in the game and make the content as great as possible for all the players who want that. Because I know it's been a long time since MWO has had this much life breathed into it, and we haven't even hit our first patch yet.
Sure.
So,
and I mean, as you know, to be fair, you're basically saying is as people become available to MWO, though, you know, and you said art usually is the first people map designers, and so like those things like spawn locations are probably not far off, and to go ahead and have the discussions right now, and I think that's great. And again, you can either be a part of the discussion or you don't have to. I mean, that's the reality. You can be a part of the solution, and I get that. I respect that. I understand that. Yeah, as far as the chicken before the egg sort of thing, I think that's what's always tough when it comes to balancing the game. I like, again, you make weapon challenge to a PPC for IS, but then all of a sudden this mech already has PPC quirks, and then it becomes too powerful and stuff. There's a lot of like layers to it. Like, I think there's some fundamental balance issues between like clan and IS, and some of them are hidden because of quirks. And of course some mechs are overquirked, but the cool thing is like the community has already highlighted that they know what changes. Like all it's going to take is Darren, you asking them, they're going to provide the information and you can make those changes. So when it comes to like the roadmap here, and talking with you, it pretty much looks like, I mean, in Q1, the low hanging fruit and what we were talking about, I mean, the only thing, like the twice a month vlog video, I was wondering if you guys would be able to keep that up. Those things are hard, especially if you're already busy. You're supposed to send out an email today, and you know, like, yeah, that's tough, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure. I mean, the email's still going to go out today. It's just going to happen after this, which isn't the best time to be sending out a mass email like Friday night when everybody's busy. But I do think the point is that we get that information out there.
Sure.
It was a free mech. Hopefully people are going to jump on Nutty's stream at 6:00 and try and win a free keyboard, because the keyboard is cool as shit, and I think it would be a really cool keyboard for MWO and MW5 as well, because I haven't set mine up completely, and it's actually going to end up going to QA, which makes me a little bit sad. But I do have another Razer keyboard, the Razer Huntsman, just the original one. But this the V2 analog has to go to QA now, because they need to test shit with it.
Yeah.
So
What does it do to the game? Yeah.
Another piece of equipment that it's like it's really cool, and I think we're gonna get ready Nutty Rat to do the first official kind of like preloaded configs.
Beta test. Yeah.
So
beta tester.
We're hoping that he'll be able to send his config files, and I want people to go to his stream and be like, hey, try this or try that, because the fact that you can press down the W key at different levels and get like almost like a throttle control is really cool.
Yeah.
Like there's no keyboard that does that. Or like I know Nutty was talking about a few different ideas that he had and he was trying to implement and stuff, and it's pretty neat. Anyways, what were we talking about? I'm like totally get distracted.
So
the email.
Yeah. No. I look, you have to get information out to everyone, which is what's available. You've got the website, obviously. You've got your YouTube. You have your social media, I would say, right? Email. You have in-game as well that pop up, and you have to hit on all accounts. I mean, that's one thing me and Darren knew, and so like that's here nor there. I think that's going to happen. You got to ping all of those, and maybe, just maybe, someone clicks one thing, and that's all you can do. You can only do your best. As far as
oh shit, and Steam too. I gotta get the new event up on Steam.
There you go.
I've got the images ready. I just gotta go do it. So it's Steam and the email after this.
It's never ending work. I apologize. I'm just bringing all this.
Oh no, it's fine. It's good. You're reminding me.
Write that down.
I'm writing it down.
Write that down. So obviously, when you guys talk about spawn points and stuff, you said community feedback. I almost expect like, have you guys already created those forum threads and like started to like, hey, we need,
I don't know if we
provide pictures.
I'm sure the players already have.
Yeah, provide pictures. Idea, like it's weird. Spawn locations are weird. We've had this. The main issue right now, and is, I don't know if you heard the explanation, was when you guys merged the group and solo again, it basically, no one adjusted where people spawn. And so now you get people in just no man's land, or it's just bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's bad. So Darren has been in chat. He's heard a bunch, and he's literally seen.
Yeah.
It's like
on him to kind of compile all the feedback, because it's hard to listen to everything.
But in the grand scheme of things, we've had the discussions with like this weird analogy of like MW is a team game, but back in the day we were worried about deathballing, right? That's the term that was used. Basically grouping together because you're safety in numbers, right? And just moving as a blob, well, that's smart. So the original idea from Paul was to split up the spawns in different locations, and it gives, so there's that design idea, right? And so right now the problem is on certain maps and certain game mode combinations, it's just really bad. So I'm assuming that's where you guys want feedback, obviously as soon as possible. But I feel like the other question is, from a design perspective, is, and I don't expect you to know the answer, and I don't have an answer, because like what is the right approach to that? Like when it comes to the design of like, where do people spawn and why do they spawn there? In conjunction with the game modes, like should light mech spawn here because on Dom they need, like all that kind of stuff, or like where Dom point should be. I feel like those are really high level and really important decisions to be made, and you have to have a good understanding, like the gameplay, like how mechs move and operate and what their capabilities are. So like I feel like that's a big thing as far as spawn locations. I think you can fix some things, because it wasn't really as bad before, when we had groups and solo independent. Like it would be like Alpha Lance was this type of mechs, and it would keep those separate, and so forth and so on. And that's what it got just jarbled up. So I think that's low hanging fruit. But in the grand scheme of things, it'd be an interesting conversation hearing from the community. Is like, is there a better way to tackle that? Like, and I ask that because like, I think that's a general question. Like, can you prevent splitting up the lances and dropping off? Should you group everyone and drop them off in the same location? Is that always the same depending on the game mode? And stuff like that. So I know
those are all very, very good questions.
Good questions, right? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
One of my key things is that and this is just my personal opinion, is that I don't like to always know where I'm gonna be put into a game. Like I like open world games, or like, you know, games with like dynamic environments and that kind of stuff. So, and I know that certain people, people certainly like predictability. So it's like, oh, I'm in this, spawning in this quadrant, so I know where my route is to get. I know where the enemy's spawning. I know where I'm spawning. I know where to go in order to get that advantage. This corner over here where I'm going to peek and track them or whatever. If you're a light mech, the, you know, the big slow mechs start plodding towards the center or whatever. Like there's a certain amount of like predictability that comes with like predetermined spawns. But then there's also like, you know, a certain amount of fun that comes with coming up with a plan on the fly. Mechwarrior has so many, because of its Mechwarrior has its own set of challenges that come with it, like the various speeds of the mech. I don't know how to solve that. Like it's
no, yeah. I just brought that up as like that's a point. Is like it
is totally a point. And I think that it's like the community might probably just have the best ideas, and we should probably just listen to them on that.
Sure.
I don't think there's anybody at PGI that has a huge dog in that fight, if you know what I mean. Like no one's really latched onto a specific idea of like this is how it should be.
Yeah.
But I will circle back to this, that there's other dependency chains on that, which is like you mentioned like, oh, should the lights all spawn there? It's like, well, what if it is grouping or whatever, and they're grouped with like one light, one medium, one heavy assault, wouldn't they rather spawn together? Or what if the matchmaker doesn't have anyone playing in lights right then, so they're like the weight distribution is wonky.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of dependency change that happen from start to finish in the game, in terms of like how the outcome can be determined.
Sure.
What mech they choose, what their skill level is, how many people are playing at any given time, how long the matchmaker's been trying to find a match for them, so it opens wider to allow a larger variance of skill, a larger variance of weight distributions and stuff like that. And I know those things can be problematic because players you can see customer support tickets that say like, you know, I was in a match with like the other team had this many assaults and our team had this distribution. It's like, well, yeah, it's because the matchmaker was like, I have to kick off the match and I've got X amount of people waiting in mechs. Here's your match. Like here you go. Yeah. And so we can talk about fixing spawn points with like the perfect conditions, but I don't know. There's a lot of variables to tune here, and no matter what problem you choose, we can point at a dependency chain of variables that we need to look at in order to solve that problem.
That's fair. You brought up something actually that sort of cued my interest, and I think I asked you this on chat, and you said that's a good question for Friday. Let's talk about population. The reason you guys combined solo and group at the time was population issues in group queue. I have two things I'd like to get into here. The first, how is population of the game since we did the podcast 204? That's the initiative that you guys started and surprised the shit out of me with Darren and bringing him on board and all that. And then secondly, when you guys made the change to do group and solo, there was also a test of 8v8 groups, and it went swimmingly well to everyone that was involved. Mm-hmm. So the decision was never explained to the public of why that wasn't. Would you guys be willing to give that a try for a month and split the queue? Do you think the game's at the population to do so? So it's a twofold question. How's population? And let's talk about group and solo queue being...
Yeah, I don't mind that idea. I wasn't a part of that decision making process at the time. So let's look at it. I mean, I'll have to look at it in terms of like how do we make those changes and who makes those changes? Because again, it requires engineers, and engineers are usually the last to come off of a project like MW5. So we do get assistance from the engineers, but I don't have unlimited amount of time from them to make changes like that. But the people who know how to make those changes are available to me to talk about them. And so I don't know why that decision was made that particular way, just putting it into group queue, and I can try and find out, but at this point I'd almost rather just go like, like you said before, it's like the past is the past. I'm
Sure.
really focused on the future, and that sounds like a potential solution to me. Like, I like the idea of AV8. You know, some of the funnest times for me in this game was when the game was early on, and it was like a handful of mechs and a handful of maps, and I think, you know, a certain level of that is just that pure level of comfort. But like as the game got older and got more complex and more content, um, you lose out on like the simple things in life that are really pleasurable, right?
Sure.
Used to drop with Deadfire
Yep.
228, and we would roll a not the 4SP. Which one's the Hunchback with the 6-pack missiles on
Yeah.
the
4SP.
shoulder?
Yeah.
This
You had it
I
right.
called it the splat back,
Yeah.
and we'd roll that, and you know, we would just be a train of destruction,
Yeah.
and so we had a ton of fun. And I think there was a bug in the SRM code at the time where splash damage like
Yeah.
was pretty OP.
Yeah.
So that was that was fun for me. It was
Yeah.
probably not fun for the
Fun
person
for
on the
everybody.
receiving end. Yeah. So, you know, it's I don't think I don't want to go back, but I do want to find those simple pleasures again,
Sure.
which is what I hope the event queue can become, where you strip away a lot of the trappings of the game, the meta, or like some of the other concerns. You don't like find a matchmaking solution that is AP8. Maybe it's mediums only. How would you feel about that, Phil? It's like cicadas and blackjacks jumping everywhere. You know, it's
Mediums
like
only.
I'm just saying for a weekend. Like,
Sure.
do you think that would be fun? Like the things that you could adjust in private match.
Okay.
Um,
Let's think about this. My main thing
so
is I'm looking at it. Well,
not in quick play. I'm not saying in quick play. You leave quick
yeah.
play alone.
Yeah.
I'm talking
Sure.
a one queue for one weekend. Let's say I'm able to set up a private match setting for people to come in and just try this mode. And it's like,
Sure.
it's just mediums. It changes the complete way you look at the game or approach it. Right.
Well, and that's where I think you could do it that way. My main concern anytime is just buckets. Like that's the first thing that pops in my head is even if it's a weekend thing, I'm just thinking
Well, we've already got a lot of buckets.
That's why I'm thinking the first thing pops in my head is your idea. Like, I don't think that's crazy. You don't have to like change values or anything, but what you could do is even in quick play, or let's just say we do have groups by then. We have groups and we solo, and you have public queue. They're both
solo
quick play.
group quick play. Yeah,
That's what I'm saying is
those two
yeah,
right there.
do those. And what I'm thinking is just have a fun weekend where what is the incentive? It's to change up the maybe monotony or the shake up things. You could give incentives for like, hey, just FYI, if you play these mechs or if you do these things. I understand having a separate queue. I don't know. I don't think it would be bad, but my first question is, could you also do that? The idea, but just in quick play on those event weekends, or an entire, like you could do a clan versus IS event. Like you literally could do a clan versus IS right now. And because matchmaker could just make sure it's clan versus IS. That's what I'm sort of thinking. And then that way you're not creating another bucket because you know,
okay,
that's my only thing is like, could that happen?
I view Solaris as 14 buckets.
It's so many buckets. It's so many. We need an entire podcast to talk just about faction play. Probably faction a few. Play and
Solaris. So like,
so event queue and group. Let's go. So we don't squirrel. I asked you about group queue, and specifically numbers, and obviously that was on the roadmap. It was at the end Q4, and I think I'm okay with the idea that it may take a while because I think that's a big thing because you could experiment maybe for a month, but I don't know how much engineering time it is to like go back to that and split those things up. I don't know. But I think it would be interesting. Do you think the population right now, because I have more viewers on Twitch, I've seen people come back who haven't played for 2-4 years. I've seen them over and over again. Mm-hmm. The population has to be going up, right? So like, and people are excited. Yeah. Where's that critical point? Because I agree 100% with everybody. It is a big balance issue having solos and groups together.
Right.
Everyone agrees. We know it. And
Yep.
as soon
It's
as we
a
can split that,
teamwork is OP, right?
it is. And as soon as we can split that, in my opinion, listening to the community, I agree. I think it's better for the overall population because groups and organization is OP. It is. And so
Yep.
at what point in time of your players going up is that separation made? Like, how are you feeling? And of course, population is going up. You just said it is. So
Yeah, it is going up. Engagement's going up, and we still haven't released our first patch. And we've got a patch. We started working on a patch for March, and I hope more people come back and play. Get the free max, whatever. Like it's my main goal is to increase population,
sure.
no matter what, and to make these changes that you guys want. So when do we pull group out of quick play and have its own group queue? I don't know, and it's not simply because I don't know when the right time is. It's because I also don't know when I can get that work done.
Sure.
And that's like not necessarily an answer that everyone wants to hear, but I think it's the right move. Like I'm not doubting it's the right move. We used to have it separate for a reason.
Yeah.
But as population went down, like we didn't work on the game, population went down, and then groups couldn't find matches, especially triply so if you're in Australia.
Yeah, poor bastards.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like your best ping is to the Singapore servers or whatever, or wherever they are they're not in Singapore. Where are they? What is it called? Pacific? No, I'm not saying where they are physically, but like what's the region called? It's not
Oceanic.
Oceanic. Thank
you.
The Oceanic servers. Part of that solution could be localization.
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? Because how many people would play in those countries if they had their language supported?
Yeah.
I don't know. So. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, my goal is to get the population as big as in the game as possible, as many regions as possible, as many players as possible, make the changes to make the content as accessible as possible.
Sure.
To improve monetization so that people are getting able to get the content they want. That's when it comes to the group queue, it's the right time will probably go past before we do it. Or it maybe is coming and we won't be able to do it, or maybe we'll do it and it'll be too soon. Like it's hard to answer that question.
Yeah. I don't
but
envy
it is
you.
something that it is something
I don't envy you in that.
We know people want.
Yeah.
Like we know people want that. We see it.
Yeah.
So part of my job is customer support. And so when you guys send a ticket to customer support, they tell me and Darren your concerns. So we have a direct line of communication through customer support. So we understand what the complaints are. We understand what technical issues people are seeing. We can look at those tickets that come in, and I can log into the ticket service and see how many of them are technical, how many of them are like behavioral, how many of them are this or how many are that. And it's like, so Darren and I being put in a position to drive this development forward, we do see not just your Facebook posts or your tweets on Twitter or your posts on the forum or what you're discussing on Discord, but we're also seeing those support tickets that come in as well. So, and we hear it all. And we have to try and take it all into consideration. And we do know that the group queue is a concern. So I'd like to do it when it's the right time. I don't know when the right time is.
So I guess the question then would be, we don't know, would you guys be open to maybe just short-term adjustments? And this is where it's tough.
Get the work done.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but like you can't.
What do you do though?
I can't get them to do a ton of work.
Yeah.
For something that's a big maybe, right?
Yeah. And then what would you do?
And maybe to some people it's not a big maybe. Like I understand people's concern. 100% I understand people's concern. But I also could say this is that I know a lot of games have groups in their quick play queue. And they people just play the game and they understand that coordinated teamwork is what wins the match, right? Is that an evil thing to say?
No.
I know some people
but,
like, Yeah.
yeah, there's a big but there.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, and I've said this, and it was so funny because I remember the video came out. I feel like I was being quoted, and I said the group size and the ability to influence the outcome of a match, right? And on top of that, right, you're a 12-man group, you're 1/3 of your team size, and you have the ability to really sway things, especially if you're like a decent group. And how I always look at it is like, if it's in there, it will and can be used, against you. So like in the group queue, the reason I bring this up, and I think because it's valid, is like, I guess my question is to you guys, the community too, is like, if let's just say Matt here just said, hey, I want to get to it, but it's going to be 4 months out. That's 4 months of, obviously we've already had X amount of months with this the way it is. What would you do? Because you can't lower tonnage. That doesn't do anything. Like, you're just nerfing yourself, because the first thing is people will say, well, just change the tonnage, and well, that affects good players are still going to be good players.
They'll run a 4-man of piranhas.
So then, but then the question is, okay, well, if you go down to 3 or a 2-man, then someone's like, I wanted to play with my 4 buddies, and I used to be able to play with 6 of them and 8 of them, and you're taking that away from me. And I think those are valid concerns.
Modern gaming expectations, being able to play with friends is just so high up the list that you can't take grouping away.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so like, I guess what I'm saying is like, I feel like it's an important topic because.
But I also want to say that I do understand why some people would want to play in a queue that is just solos.
Sure.
So I do get that. I do get both sides of that argument. So I'm not saying I don't want to do it. I want to do it. I want to do it when the time is right, and I don't know when the time is right, and I don't know when I can get that work done. I don't know how easy it'll be to get that work done, or how hard it'll be to get that work done. If it's one engineer working one day, then yeah, it's easy. If it's like, I don't know how much work they had to put into to swap those queues over. So
sure. And then even if you
UI work and back end work and matchmaker work,
yeah,
again, like a lot of things on the list still require investigation. That's why you'll see something further down the road where it's just like, investigate this.
Sure.
Right? Because some of the earlier things, it's like, okay, I get it. I know, I've worked on this game long enough to know who did that, or who has to make those changes, especially when it comes to art or levels and stuff like that. Like, moving spawn points around to me is a known quantity, because it's an entity that is placed in the 3D world that has a direction, and it has a tag or whatever, a metadata attached to it that says this is a spawn point for this mode in this position. And so moving that around is as simple as, grabbing an object in the world and moving it to the right place.
Sure.
Or the place that the players want it. When it comes to more complex things like recombining group queues that are, there's front end attached to it. So there's UI, there's back end, which is like matchmaker logic. And then, probably some other considerations that I'm not even thinking of. Just for me to say like, yeah, we're going to take it out, it's irresponsible, because I haven't talked to the people that would have to do the work. I don't know if those people are available, those kind of things. And it's a struggle, and the struggle is real, but I'm going to be like open and honest with the entire player base about it, is that like, I do want to make that happen. I want the population to grow. We want to get solo queue back. We want to get group queue back, and maybe group queue 8v8 is the thing. I know comp is 8v8, right?
Mm-hmm.
So comp's 8v8. Why can't group queue be 8v8? Is that what people want?
I think it's been. I like the debate, because I'm not convinced, but also there's other factors. And if it's population, an 8v8 with 4-man groups, and you could even say, because this is other things I have to be like, do you do tonnage or just do 1 across the board? You have to have a 4-man. You don't have to drop in 2 or 3s. It's just 4-man. That makes the matchmaker kick off really quick as well. So maybe 8v8 is the way to go, and you just do 1 across the board. And as you guys do rescale, as you do weapon pass, as you look at mobility and skill tree, maybe X light mech isn't always the top tier and what's always broad. Maybe now you've got a wide range and stuff, and then you talk to the community. For me, it's never, I feel like fundamentally when you talk about 8v8 to 12v12, I see both sides of it. I've had discussions. I'm not going to give my opinion on that. I just feel like, why not test it? Do 8v8, see what happens, and see what the players think, and go from there. And what's the worst?
That's one of the reasons
right?
why I really want to have an event queue. Because I like the idea of an event queue being potentially things like just 8v8, and it's like, say, event queue, I can have a checkbox to be like allow groups or don't allow groups, right? 8v8 solos all weekend long, 8v8 solos with dropship respawns on River City.
Sure.
Like a mode that that I'm sure people would have a ton of fun playing. But it doesn't have to be permanent, right?
I think, but I like your idea of the event queue and sure, baby. I think the biggest thing would be...
Is it that obvious, Phil?
Yeah.
Is it that obvious?
It's like me talking about Rescale. The biggest thing to you, I think, in that is population. I think you can do whatever you want if we have plenty of people to do it and sustain it. And that's... Population is the, and of course design. I mean, whether it's map or game mode or so forth. I mean, if you have the players to be able to do it and there's people willing to drop, I mean, you can have fun and mix it up. But I mean, respawns, that's a great idea. Like, again, we can talk about a lot of stuff. But like, I think what's tough for a lot of the community right now, and this isn't you, it's just they're like, everyone's chomping at the bit. And it's like,
I know, me too.
Like that's the thing is like, we want you to say, hey, you know what? Mark Nicholson,
no matter what we do, it's not going to be fast enough, man.
Well, that's the thing is like, that's, like Mark Nicholson is now, he's doing this. Oh, we have an animator. They're already working on mech. Hey, we have a map designer. You guys need to talk to him because we need to start talking, map. And like, even the discussion of map design, this may shock you. I'm going to, another curveball.
Okay.
I don't want more maps.
Okay.
I want the community and a map designer make adjustments to the current ones are there and make adjustments based on the game mode, where I think that's been one of the biggest things is like, you designed a map and you plopped down a game mode and said work. But the reality of it is like Valorant and Counter-Strike and all them, they take a lot of time and like, where's the, the approach on this? Where can you see sight lines and stuff? There's a lot of work that goes into that. And you have to do that on a per game mode basis and where people are spawning and stuff like that. And I feel like...
So you're saying it's better to have less maps that are better than to have more maps that are quality.
Yeah, quality over quantity. In this regard, we have a ton of maps. It's just, like, how do the game modes play on them and where do... and... Grim Plexus, it's F7 Hill every single time. To me, like, there's like a fundamental flaw there. It's like something's, where is that? And so to me, I think it'd be really cool hearing people's ideas out there, your guys' idea, because you may have a map designer. Rubelite Oasis is a good map, albeit it still has the same design issues where it's the same map, game mode, go. But the discussions I'm hearing about, like, hey, you know what they could do faction play, like, hey, you know what they could do with Solaris, I think are great. I think it's just, it goes back to people are chomping at the bit for happening. And I'm sitting here going like, I think we need to curb our expectations of how quickly things are going to happen, because like, if it's...
Nothing wrong with lowering your expectations.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is like...
Not lowering, but like, there's nothing wrong with a healthy...
Curb your enthusiasm.
A healthy dose of expectations when it comes to how fast things are going to get done.
Sure.
At the same time, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to get things done as fast as I can. Like, every day, Darren and I are pushing. That's what we do. We've got the list. We've got our marching orders from the community, and every day we're pushing.
Sure.
That means that we're planning patches. We are getting the feedback from the players, incorporating them into feature changes, and talking to the right people and getting that work assessed with the project managers. So the process is a bit of a machine, but the machine is running and the machine is working. So
knowing that and saying that, do you have any in the near future those resources being yours? Like, is there any inkling right now? Like, yes, you've got a map designer, you got an art guy, you got an engineer. Like, is there anything I had that meeting
today. Like, we've had that meeting ongoing, but we've talked about needed resources for a while now, like, and they're not just people, they're also machines, right? They're hardware, and people are working from home, so sometimes they'll be VPNing into their machine to work on MW5. Sometimes they'll be VPNing into the machine to work on MWO if they have or a shared resource. And so you have to have not just the hardware, you have to have the development environment set up on that machine. So that means you need to have the proper tools in the proper tool chains to execute on making mechs, on changing mechs, to exporting videos. Like, that was one of the things that held up the lowering of the volume, is that Steve's machine needed to be vetted to make sure it was operational and that the correct software was on there, and that when you export the video from me doing it in not After Effects, but Premiere, that I give him the correct file format. The correct file format goes through the re-exportation process and will go into the game without being wrong. And that's why that one change didn't get in there, is that we did not complete those steps in time for QA. We called it. We were like, this is a risk, something we want to get done, but it's a risk. If we miss it, it'll go into the next patch. So we worked on it, and we got it 99% of the way there. It just didn't make it into the patch. So it like got the boat was pulling away just as it arrived at the harbor, right? So, and there's having been in this, working on this game for this long, there's other things that just don't make it into the patch. Then there's sometimes that things that make it into the patch, you don't want them in there, and you got to have a hot fix, right? So it's I'm going to try, and Darren and I are going to try and get as much stuff in there as possible, as quickly as possible. And a weapon pass in the next one is something that we want to have happen. I can't define to you what that weapon pass looks like right now, but I do know that we want to take the feedback that players have and incorporate into the weapon pass. So even just in the last one, there was a minor little bug, and I think the patch notes should go up Friday at the latest next week. So the 12th is when the patch notes will actually be up. But it was just a minor change of a variable to do with one of the PPCs. Yeah. And it should have zero effect on anything. But we found out about it. We heard about it. I said I could change it. I changed it. It went in there. It is an XML file. And the weapon changes are an XML file, but it's a big XML file. Yeah. And you do have to be meticulous when you're in there, because you can make mistakes. We are human.
Yeah. With 1,000 cooldown, quick draw and quirk draw, that happens. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Shit happens, right?
Shit happens, yeah. Especially connecting remotely. People don't realize
that sometimes. Can we talk about bolt-ons?
Sure. You can talk about.
You don't care about?
You're an adult. You can talk about whatever you want. Like.
No, with the bolt-ons, there's 12,238 bolt-ons in the game. And most of those are like tusks and flags, and stuff. So there's so much duplication and stuff like that. But that's an XML file with that many items.
Inputs,
and and so each one of them has like a lot of data associated with it, like what variants it can go on and all these things. And so you open that up, and that's the XML file for the game for bolt-ons.
Yeah.
And when it came time to change the bolt-ons from fall off to not fall off, it was a mass search and replace for me. I thought it was going to be a lot harder than this. I thought we were going to have to go through and remove collision data. It was a mass search and replace. Bolt-on fall off true to bolt-on fall off false.
That works out.
So that work was done like in an hour. And I know you're like, oh, who cares about this, right? Like, who cares about bolt-ons? Well, enough people, I've heard it said enough times, like, why would I buy a bolt-ons if they fall off? Like, why would I? And like, even you get a bolt-on, it's like, okay, you bump up against a tree and it falls off.
Yeah.
But I totally get the other side of that. It's like, why are we altering the shape of this mech?
If it's an XML edit and it's that quick and easy, awesome. I'm just like, like from my, but again, that's just my opinion. It doesn't matter.
Sometimes it's just, it is an XML edit that is quick and easy. Sometimes but it's also that quick and easy to fuck up too, right?
Yeah. So let me ask you, what else can the community do? Because like, what would make your life easier? Because, like outside of, you have what resources you have, and you and Darren, and you're full steam ahead. Like,
what would make my life easier for the community? I don't know. Like, you could do part of my job by just telling people to come back. That would be like getting. Big part of our job is trying to reach people.
sure.
And again, I've got Steam and email to do after this. So if you think that you like the direction, tell people to come back. Like, more people to come back, the sooner we can talk about getting the group queue out of solo queue, right?
Okay.
If people do the opposite and less people leave, then the likelihood of us getting group queue out of there becomes less. So my thing would be like, just invite people back, have them come back and play the game. I know there's not a ton of changes right now. There will be this month. Well, not ton, but there's some changes coming this month, and we want to change some stuff in the next patch too. And the cadence of 2 devlogs a month makes sense for us in the sense that we want to be fully transparent with everybody with what it is we're doing, what we're working on. I couldn't announce the Razor Huntsman thing because they hadn't announced the keyboard yet, right?
Sure.
But I was so excited. Like, this is a cool event. It's like,
Yeah.
and on the roadmap we put free mechs every month. It's like, well, this is the first free mech, so you can expect 10 more free mechs, and those missions will be, it'll change and evolve over time. I've already talked to the web team. It's like, all I need them to do is like create a system for me to say, like, these are the missions and this is the mech, or this is the group of mechs they'll be able to choose from. And then so event ID 592, event ID 593, event ID 594, I make those events, and then they have to complete those events, and then at the end of the month, or whenever they complete those events, then that mech gets injected into their account. So that's why I kind of call it missions. The missions will basically be a set of 3 or 4 challenges, and they won't always be linked to like the overarching event that's going on.
Okay, so
usually I like to do it to drive people in a certain direction.
Okay.
In terms of that stuff.
Okay, so that's what the players can do. Obviously, is that the best method that we haven't talked about? Like, Russ, the gatekeeper, is he's looking at MWO. He's worried about Mech 5 as well. Is this the best metric when he says, well, player population is going up, so you guys is there anything the community can say to him, like, hey, we really want this to get more resources dedicated to you guys faster? Do we have to send them beer, brownies, what? Like, what do we need to do to get Russ to say? I mean,
positive feedback is always a good thing. Like, but the more, honestly, the bringing people back is probably our key metric. Watching the player population go up is a very, very good, promising thing, whether or not they're spending money. Just having people engaged is a net positive for everybody, because the more people that are playing, the quicker matches kick off, the more people play. The more people, the quicker matches, the more people playing, the more variety of skill levels we have in the game, the more fair the matches are. The ingredient is people. I think MWO was designed, particularly faction play, was designed for a huge population.
Sure.
Right? Like, and the majority of the people play quick play.
Yep.
I've got the statistics on who plays what and how many hours they spend in any particular mode. And we've had some really fun times in faction play when we did things like Tukid.
Sure.
And it was a big event, and it was a huge dog pile, and quick play population went down, faction play population just went boom, like, just everyone focused on Tukid. I think people had fun. We would have big reports, statistical reports that we would put out afterwards of like what mechs were played the most, like all these different types of things. And I want to get back to that, where we can kind of like have big focuses on big things. And that's why I get so obsessed with the event queue.
Yeah. Is
that I loved those moments where Tukid was the thing and everybody was stoked about it, and like we had these themed events, and we could put new content in the game, like even if it's just a stupid war horn or whatever, right? Like just
Sure.
it makes a new sound. Like when we did April Fools, it's a new war horn. You get like, oh, it's the mystery war horn or something like that. It gets people talking, it gets people to come and play the game. And the more people playing, the faster the matches are, the more fair the matches are, and then that's fun, right?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, faction play. I want to be hopelessly addicted to faction play, and we've been talking about it a lot, and I've got a lot to talk to the community about, but also I feel like the community can really have that conversation with you guys, and I think there's some really cool ideas out there. Like I'm talking like it would be probably my primary game mode and choice for people coming in. I feel like we need to leave that for another podcast and discussion.
Yeah, I mean,
we can dive down that. So we're already an hour and a half into, yeah.
Is it an hour and a half?
Yeah, we're already an hour and a half. You've got some work you got to do. So
Yeah.
I feel like we talked about quite a bit here, and I feel like it give people out there a little bit better understanding.
We'll have to do part 2.
Yeah, part 2, and just keep this up, and you know, it's just good to hear from you guys, and I feel like you guys talk about more communication. This is part of it, and albeit if someone else has a podcast out there, reach out to these guys. I don't have a monopoly on it, and we just don't have any other podcasts out there in the community, really.
Well, I think that, yeah, you've got, we've worked with you guys for a long time.
Sure,
so definitely
sure.
You've got a foot in the door, but it doesn't mean that we wouldn't talk to anybody else.
And because someone else may have ask you better or pertinent questions or a different direction of something, and like I'm just a guy, like I I'm not like a brainiac or anything, so if there's podcasts out there, I'm a simpleton when it comes to that. So Matt, I just want to say thank you for the time. I appreciate that. I feel like we got through Q1 and parts of different, like there's so much to talk about, but a lot of it's repetitive because a lot of it you're coming back and you're saying, hey, this is going to be continually revised, and I caught that during the roadmap, and I think that's a great strategy because that it's an ever evolving thing where you may have to make adjustments here or there, whether it's new player experience or balance adjustments. That's stuff that's what's going to get people to come back. Because you guys are investing time in the game, they're going to come back and invest their own time, which is the most valuable thing, right? So thank you for taking the time to be on the podcast. Do you have any last minute shout outs or where people can get in touch with you?
Go watch Nutty. It's just probably going to come out after Nutty started streaming, but I hope you guys check out the Razor Huntsman or Hunt for the Huntsman event, get the free Mac. He's going to be giving away 2 keyboards, so they're like $250 US keyboards. These things are nice, very nice. Check out the video too; it's like pretty sweet. Get the mech. The other thing is just tell people to come play the game. And I hope that we can, like, if you're not buying anything that I'm selling right now, I hope that I get to prove it to you. You know what I mean? Like my hope is that anyone who would say that we're not going to do this stuff, is that I'm going to try my damnedest to prove them wrong. And anyone who's like cheering for us, just thank you so much, because that I appreciate that so much. And I've gotten some PMs on the forum and some really positive feedback there. And it's like you see that stuff and you just can't help but smile. Like you hear both sides of it. So I like getting positive, and I don't mind critics either. But my hope is to prove the critics wrong. So
sure, I think that's fair. Well, thank you again, sir. Have a great weekend, and you have a little bit of work left to do. Sorry for holding you up, but you don't have a commute, so it's nice.
Yeah, exactly. So, I am home already.
All right, will have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, Phil. See ya.
And that was Matt Newman, the live ops manager for Piranha Games, working with Darren Katz, of course, who couldn't be here. Man, I feel like that podcast could have went on for much longer, and I'm looking forward to those discussions, especially when it comes to faction play and Solaris and so forth, but also hearing back from you guys. It'd be great. If you had any comments on this topic, of course, make sure to post a question or in the comment section down below. If you found this informative, make sure to click that like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already. And of course, just want to say thanks for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed this information. We could probably do a few of these and barely scratch the surface, but that is what long form discussion's about. So just want to say thanks for listening in. And of course, like I said, thank you so much. This podcast is supported by you, the viewer and listener out there. If you guys enjoy what I do, whether it's stream Monday through Friday, 12 to 6 p.m. Eastern over at twitch.tv/NGNGTV, or creating new player videos, or highlighting stream builds, or any of this stuff. If you enjoy that and you find my content worth it, please consider becoming a patron. I'll have that link down below in the description. It has the best revenue share. And again, just want to say thank you again for considering it. Go check it out. Speaking of support, I'd like to give a quick shout out to two patrons in particular. These are our podcast sponsors, Chad and Downtime. Thank you guys so much for your contributions and helping support this podcast and my passion in creating content. Without you guys, again, I want to be here. So thank you. If you'd like to become a podcast sponsor, check out becoming a tier 4 patron. Let's continue. And of course, hit me up on Twitch. We stream, like I said, Monday through Friday. It's fantastic. It's a great time. It's a great way for you as new players to come in here and ask questions live, as I mentioned during the podcast. And that is, again, link, it will be in the description. And of course, just want to say thank you to all of you guys. It's been a fantastic time in my life. As you can see, we're in new digs. We've moved. We're getting a few things. I still don't have the office all the way dealt with yet, but still temp. But all the way, it's been fantastic having the support. So thank you guys for reaching out to me, especially during the hard time when we lost Gizmo. But yeah, so just want to say thank you again for that support, and look forward to 2021 and the goals and crushing goals. And we're going to continue making progress, doing videos like these with the developers, other community members, having these discussions about weapon balance, about agility. Let's talk about the skill tree in depth, because I feel like that's a whole nother rabbit hole. This was your local No Guts, No Galaxy Mechwarrior podcast, signing off for tonight. This is Phil. Until next time.